Today we're going to continue talking about superglobals inside PHP, and for this episode, we're going to talk about something called a cookie and a session. Now, you might have heard the name cookie before. You know, when you go to a website and it says, do you want to accept cookies, yes or no? Now, the basic idea behind cookies and sessions is that you can save information on the user. Now, a cookie saves information on the user side, meaning inside the browser, and a session saves information on the user inside the server side. So, to give you guys an example, let's say I go to a website that has a login system. Now, I'm going to go into the login system, or like into the inputs of the login system. I'm going to type my username and my password, and then I'm going to hit login. Now, once I log in, if I'm actually logged in correctly, we need to be able to save who is actually logged in. Because once I do actually go to another page, suddenly the website doesn't remember anymore who's actually logged in. So we use sessions to make the website remember who we actually are when we are logged in. Now, even though cookies might be the one you're more familiar with, cookies are usually used for saving information that's not as dangerous for other people to know about, because hackers have an easier time going into your cookies rather than sessions. Now, cookies are actually saved on your computer somewhere where hackers can gain access to it, and you don't want that. So when you use cookies, you can use it for something like, let's say you've been to a website that sells clothing and you want, the website to remember what type of clothing this person likes. So next time they come in, you're going to display that clothing as the first thing when they enter the site. Now, that will be okay, because that's not something hackers can actually use for something dangerous. Now, like a username and password, on the other hand, is not something you want to give away. So that's why we use sessions for that sort of thing. Now, there's also a difference here, because a session ends as soon as you close down your browser. If I actually go up and shut down my, Chrome or Firefox or whatever browser you might be using, the session is going to end. A cookie, on the other hand, has a time limit. I can actually set a cookie for maybe, 30 days, like a month, if I want to. And when they enter, a website again, it's still going to remember the information that we saved inside the cookie. It's not going to forget it unless we tell it to, or the time expires. So now that we talked about the differences between a cookie and a session, let's actually try and talk about how to actually make these. So if I want to make a cookie, I can actually write set cookie, parentheses, which is an actual function inside PHP. And inside the parentheses, we can put quite a few parameters. Now, the first one is the one we have to put in there, which is the name of the actual cookie. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and write name. Afterwards, it would make sense to, actually give this cookie a value. So I'm going to go ahead and say, comma, Daniel, inside a string, of course, because right now, if I call out the cookie called name, it's going to write Daniel because that's the value of it. Now, let's say I want this cookie to expire after quite a while. Let's say a day, which is not quite a while, but let's say we want this cookie to expire after a day. We can actually say comma. Then I'm going to use a predetermined function inside PHP called time, parentheses, which basically takes the current time, and then we're going to add a day to it. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and write 86,400 milliseconds, which is a day apparently, because I do actually have a calculator next to me here. But this basically takes the current time and adds a day to it. So a day from now, as you actually activate this cookie is going to destroy itself. Now, let's say I want to automatically destroy this cookie. I don't want the user to wait a day. Let's say I have a button inside the website that says destroy all cookies, and then the user can click it. Now, the way you do that is by setting it to any kind of negative. If I were to say negative, let's say 1 millisecond, this would actually destroy the cookie because, it had to be destroyed yesterday, so it's going to destroy it right now. So that's the way we can destroy cookies as well. Now, let's say I want to create a session instead, because like I said, cookies are not very safe. So in some cases, if we want to create a login system, we might want to save the username and password, or at least, the name of the user inside a session. So what we can do here is we can go ahead and create a session by saying variable underscore session brackets, and I'm going to go ahead and set this one equal to something. Now inside the brackets, we're going to put either single or double quotes. I'm just going to put single quotes. And we're going to give this one a name. Now, I could actually write name inside the session. So right now, this session is called name. And we're going to set it equal to Daniel, which is a string. Now, because session is equal to name, now let's actually say this is equal to an actual ID of the user Daniel inside the database, which is not something we want a hacker to get their hands on. Now, let's say the ID of this person is actually 12. We don't want the hackers to know about this number, but because we're saving it inside a session variable, the hacker won't actually be able to see this. Cookies, on the other hand, they actually will, but not sessions. So right now, we're actually saving a session called name and setting it equal to 12. So we can actually create this sort of thing inside, for example, a form. When we do actually type something to log in, we can actually create these sessions and set it equal to, whatever user ID is equal to the username and password they typed into inside the login field, inside the input field. So we can actually create these, and as long as we actually have the session running inside the website will actually remember who you are as a user when you're logged in. So knowing this, we're also going to have to talk about actual sessions, because we need to have a session going inside a website in order for it to actually remember variables called sessions, like these sort of super globals down here. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.